finances, wealth, wisdom, stewardship, legacy, God's design. Get ready to learn about the gospel of finance. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, let's talk about year-end closeout. What are some priorities for business owners and what you need to make sure that you look out for so that you have a good closeout for the year? I've been working with clients for, again, some over 30 years now. And the year-end closeout oftentimes for some individuals tends to be difficult. And the reason why it tends to be difficult is because some individuals, we're just not as organized as we should be. And that's one of the Achilles heels of small business owners. We're just not as organized as we should be. I've been talking with several clients. Even now, I've got one client that hasn't done their corporate returns in the last 2 years. As far as the filing is concerned, and we did a check with them with the state, only to find out that their state corporation status has been revoked because they had not paid their annual fees, as it were. And it's different for each state, but at the same time, it's just a money grab, in my opinion, from the state, just a way to get money, keep the registrations in place so they can recognize you as a corporation, LLC, whatnot. Each state is a little bit different, but they all have their fees, but you have to make sure that your annual reports are filed and filed timely, because if not, then they will dissolve your organization, which opens you up for litigation and liability if something bad were to happen. So get that paperwork back in place and get it up and running so you can keep moving forward. Makes no sense to file and get your LLC, your corporation, and then let it lapse. It does nothing to advance or to help your organization. But there's some closeout priorities, critical priorities when it comes to business owners. The first thing you got to keep in mind is you got to make sure that you have financial records and accounting integrity. Financial records and accounting integrity. Make sure, number one, that you reconcile all your books and records. Why is that important? Because you have to make sure that all your numbers agree. Reconciling is a very important process in accounting. It's overlooked and misunderstood, and oftentimes because in this day of AI, there's a lot greater accuracy when it comes to financial information, but you still have to reconcile your books. All right. So in the event of an audit, reconciliation, what that does for you, it verifies and it validates that your numbers agree across the board. So what I'm saying in my ledgers are the same thing that the bank says, and any other organization that we are tracking, we're all saying the exact same thing when it comes to finances and expenses. So you want to keep that in mind. You're looking at bank accounts, credit cards, lines of credit, all those things we need to make sure that you're taking care of these areas when you reconcile. I had a client that was using Zelle, they were using Venmo, PayPal, Square, all these different mediums to transact business. Keep in mind, these are all bank accounts. These are all bank accounts, which means that you need to make sure you track them and you reconcile them. Why is it considered a bank account? Because you can actually pull money in, it will hold money, and you can use that money to pay bills. And with a lot of these platforms now, they will even offer loans to those who subscribe to their platform. So it is a bank, quasi-bank. It's a bank without walls. Call it what you want, but it is a bank nonetheless. And so what that means for you is that you've got to reconcile these accounts, bottom line. So if you've got a traditional bank account, but you also have a PayPal account, and you have a Square account, Cash App account, it doesn't really matter. If you have these accounts, all of these accounts have to be reconciled. All the numbers have to tie together. All the numbers have to agree. All right. So you need to make sure you keep that in mind. This is the sloppy, this is the dull, this is the mundane type of information people don't really want to hear. But oftentimes, if you don't do this and do this effectively, guess what's going to happen? You're going to pay more taxes because you're not capturing the right expenses that you need to capture. And you may be able to reduce your taxable income if you do the right thing. So it is vitally important that you make sure you capture this in every area, all right? Tax readiness and strategic positioning. Tax readiness, strategic positioning. This is where the accountant comes in. This is where you pay the money to the CPA. CPAs don't necessarily want to do bookkeeping, right? They work with strategic planning. They work with real-time numbers. They work with audits. They're the ones that drill down on your information to make sure that you are effectively managing your portfolio and your business. And so if you don't have a CPA, you need to have what's called a qualified accountant. And that's simply somebody that has 7 or more years of actual accounting, public accounting experience. Because these are the individuals that understand the tax regulations and the laws. Okay? So keep that in mind. Strategic positioning. How do I position myself so that I'm minimizing my tax position for the upcoming year and not opening myself up for new taxes as I go? We start looking at houses, real estate, purchases, sales. How does that play into it? And how can I move or shift taxes potentially to another period so that I don't have to pay as much in the period that I'm in? These things have to be considered. You got to take a look at that strategic planning and positioning. All right. The third thing is this: cash flow, budget strategy. You got to take a look at your income and your expense. Set a budget. All right. A budget is not in place to restrict how you spend. A budget is in place to manage your income. Is to make sure that you can maximize your money. It's kind of a misconception about budgets, because everybody that puts a budget in place, they think that they're being hindered from spending money. It's not in place to hinder you spending money. What a budget does, it maximizes the income that you have coming in. You want to make sure that I get the most out of this buck that I'm spending out, the most I get in return, and being able to put this money in a place where it benefits me the most. That's what a budget does. So get all that stinking thinking out your head and get back to thinking the way you need to think. That's why the CPA, that's why the qualified tax accountant comes into play, because you need to make sure that they are filling you in on these areas so that you can maximize your money. All right. Number 4, compliance, legal, administrative requirements, making sure that annual reports are filed, making sure that everything on the state level and the federal level are filed and filed timely. Okay. If you have a corporate return, it is due by March the 15th, not April the 15th. April the 15th is your personal tax return. All right. And so you look at March, April, May. March is for corporate returns, April for personal 1040 returns, and May is for your nonprofit return, all on the 15th. So March the 15th, April 15th, May the 15th, those 3 dates, keep those in mind. If you have to file an extension, make sure you get it in a timely fashion. All right. So government administrative requirements, making sure you got those in place. If you got payroll, HR, employee-facing obligations, then you need to make sure those are covered as well. One of the biggest challenges for small business is handling not the payroll, but the payroll taxes. So you've got to make sure that you've got vehicles and avenues in place that will help you pay those and pay those in a timely fashion. You don't want to get behind on paying payroll taxes, because once you open up that beast, open up that can of worms, it is hard to get the genie back in the bottle on that. So make sure you get it in place. Make sure you do what you got to do with respect to covering your money. Now, keep this in mind also too, because this is something that you got to make sure you understand. Just because you got money coming in doesn't mean it's yours. I know that's a hard thing to say. I know it's a hard thing even more to hear. Just because you got money coming in doesn't mean it's yours. So what does that mean? That means if I make $1,000, you got to do some thinking. You got to do what the old folks used to say, ciphering. Okay, I got to sit down now. Out of this $1,000, who do I owe? Primarily, I'm talking about the government. How much of that money belongs to Uncle Sam? How much of that money belongs to Uncle Sam's cousin? I call him Leroy. That's the state government. How much do we owe them? So you got to make sure you put that money aside. Don't take that money and use it, if at all possible, because again, it comes due. And when it comes due, they want their money and they want it in a timely fashion. So make sure you can put it in their hands so that you don't have any hiccups. Also, too, at the beginning of the year, end of the year, you look at data security. This is a time if upgrades are needed in your computer systems, you need to make sure you can take care of that at the end of the year, moving into the new year. Because if the system goes down, you'd much rather it go down during the Christmas holiday than when you start back up January 1st moving forward. Or if there's a critical time for you in the business calendar, annual calendar, you don't want your systems going down when you need them the most. So make sure that you got proper backups, cloud backups, as well as hard backups as well. So make sure you got these things in place so that your system, so that your business does not experience some type of crisis at the wrong time. Also dealing with inventory, cost of goods, and your supply chain. This is the time to renegotiate contracts. If you need to renegotiate contracts, inventory, make sure you got what you need as far as inventory is concerned. If you're a service-based business, then you probably don't need anything. But even with service-based businesses, inventory may be things, products, goods that you can sell for a profit. So keep those things in mind. Cost of goods, what is it going to cost you to make what you're going to make? For those who are in the manufacturing and selling business, you got product for sale. What are the cost of goods for your products moving into the new year? All those things need to be planned out. Nothing should be catching you by surprise moving forward. All right. So that's number 8 would be strategic review and business reset. You need to put your plans in place. Each year, you need to go higher. So what can I do different to make more money in the next year, the new year, than I did in the previous year? Something you got to keep in mind. You got to plan it out. Nothing happens by accident. Success is never an accidental occurrence. It is always planned. It is always designed. So you need to make sure you have a plan for your success moving forward. All right? Because the people perish without a vision. And so keeping those in mind, you got 8 strategic areas. The 9th is clean up your public image. All right? So now, credit, reset. If you got some poor credit, got some late payments, now's the time to start getting that in order. Now's the time to start putting it back in place, all right? Outdated websites, make sure you deal with those as well. Your Google business profile, social media, archive old promotions. Let's make this fresh. Let's make this new. Let's get this thing revamped and let's get it going. Email marketing list. Go ahead and purge your list, clean your bounces up, and make sure we can get moving forward with a fresh list moving forward into the new year. And once you get those things in place, you're off and running. And lastly, prepare for banking, credit, and capital needs. What am I going to need for the new year? All right. And all of these things are very important because if you got a cash outlay, how much is it going to cost you to make the money you're going to make for the new year? You got to plan it out. You got to plan out where the money's going to come from. Is it going to come from sales or is it going to come from a small business loan? And there are different ways that you can get loans, but you have to make sure you understand the consequences and the parameters behind those different types of loans. You've got your traditional bank loans, you got SBA, you got hard money loans, you got private lenders. There's a variety of different ways that you can pull money into your business. All of it's going to cost you. All right. Some require credit. Some don't require credit at all. They require assets or they require receivables. So if you got a large amount of receivables that can be tapped into, you have what's called factoring. You have companies out there that will actually buy your receivables and they will pay you for them. They're not going to pay you what you're making right now, but they'll give you enough money to where you can continue operating. That is a cost of business if you choose to go down that road. So really for the individual business, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's what you're willing to pay. But it all goes back to your strategic plan, because if you don't have the right plan in place, then you're subject to fail for this upcoming year. Because if you're not out the gate moving like you need to move in the first quarter, if you're not experiencing the success that you need to experience in that first quarter, you're going to have some problems moving forward. All right? Because it's hard to regroup when you start moving towards the middle of the year, because half the year is already gone. 3/4 of the year, a quarter of the year is already gone. It's hard to revamp and regroup when you've got that much time, because you've already had some momentum moving in a certain direction. So make sure that when you launch out in the next year, you launch out with a mindset that I've got these things in place, and having these things in place, this will guarantee me a measure, if not a totality of success as I begin to move forward. So with that being said, keep those things in mind, and look forward on the next video for us to talk about some more areas that will increase your business so that you can maximize yourself in this upcoming new year. God bless you.